Hi guys, as you're painfully aware, the profession or hobby of videography and photography can be quite expensive. I've reviewed a lot of expensive things for this channel lately. I have purchased a lot of expensive things for this channel lately, but today we're going to talk about budget. These are two budget APS-C lenses. I will talk about a few more as well. These are the best budget lenses that are autofocus that I can recommend for the Sony APS-C system. So let's save our wallet some grief and talk about this. Now, all of these lenses I have used extensively and or reviewed, so these are the ones that I can recommend under $300. But if you have your own suggestions, please write them down in the comments below, and then we can all benefit from your knowledge and your experience. So let's talk first about the widest focal length. I'll go from wide to telephoto. And the first one I will mention is the Samyang/Rokinon 12mm f 2.0. Samyang and Rokinon are the same company, in case you don't know. So that lens is actually quite good for the ultra-wide focal length when you're talking about under $300. Now, of course, if you have the budget, I would always recommend the Sony 11mm f1.8. That is a better lens than the Samyang in pretty much every single way, but it is much more expensive. The Samyang lens will still get you that ultra-wide field of view when it comes to your photography or your videography. So if you like to do a lot of vlogging, let's say, with your videography and you're doing handheld, then that 12mm is going to come in handy. The f2.0, that lets in a lot of light. So in a low light situation, the Samyang 12mm f2.0 will also work really well. So when you're talking ultra wide and you're talking about under $300, then I would go with the Samyang or Rokinon 12mm f2.0. Next up, we'll talk about the Viltrox 23mm f1.4. Now you'll notice I jumped between 12mm all the way to 23mm because under $300, it's tough to get something that is autofocus between those two focal lengths. However, what you're looking at right now, sorry, I'm losing my voice. My kids gave me a cold. They're ruining my YouTube dreams yet again this fall season. But what you're looking at right now is the Sigma 16mm f1.4. It's the lens I almost always use here in the studio on my APS-C cameras. Absolutely fantastic. This is my most recommended lens of all time. But it didn't make the cut in this video because it's usually about $360, and this is under $300. But if you have a little extra change and you want this focal length, I'm about 2 feet away from the camera, great for interviews. It's about a 24mm field of view full frame equivalent, or maybe you get this on sale, or perhaps you buy renewed like I did. You know what? I'm going to leave a link for this one down there anyway. We'll sneak him in under the wire, even though he's more than $300, but just barely. But now we'll talk about a lens that's really under $300, and that is this Viltrox 23mm f1.4. I really like the build quality of the Viltrox lenses. They are metal lenses, and it's got a little aperture ring. You don't usually see an aperture ring on a budget lens like this. And 23mm f1.4 for under $300. This can be used in the studio as well. A lot of people do prefer this focal length in the studio because it gives you roughly a 35mm field of view full frame equivalent, and that is what a lot of people shoot documentaries on, interviews, talking heads. So you could have this exact shot here. You would just move the camera back a little bit. The camera would have to be back about 4 or 5 feet from your gorgeous mug to get about this field of view. So definitely a great studio lens. You get that nice blurry background at that f1.4, or in low light situations, it'll do you great as well. And a lot of people also like shooting photos at the 35mm focal length. So it's a little bit wider than what your eyes would normally see, but it is not super wide like an ultra wide lens. Something like that gives you a really nice look, the 35mm focal length. Highly recommended, the Viltrox 23mm f1.4. Next up, we have this little TT Artisans. Look at the size of this. This is one of the cheapest autofocus lenses in history. It's like $160. It's 27mm f2.8. So not quite as bright as the other lenses that I've mentioned on this video, but 2.8 is still a pretty good amount of light that gets in to the lens here. And at 27mm, you're getting close, full frame equivalent, full frame. Oh, the cold is messing with my brain. The infection has gone to my brain, but this gives you close to the full frame equivalent of about a 50mm field of view. It's creeping up there, and a lot of people like that for street photography and street videography. And look at this like little pancake lens right here. Just walk around, put that on your little APS-C camera, your A6700, your ZV-E10, A6400, very low profile, great walk around lens, taken around traveling in your city. Wonderful. But a step up in quality from that TT Artisans, around the same focal length, is the Sigma 30mm f1.4. This is overall the best value lens on this list because even though it is close to $300, this should be a more expensive lens. It is absolutely fantastic optically. Its autofocus is lightning fast. It's just got that 1.4 of light, so it lets in so much light. It is just very close to that 50mm full frame field of view. So your street photography, so like when you're going places and you want to capture the reality of the environment you're in, that 30mm from Sigma is going to do you very well. It's great for gimbal use as well. That is, along with this Sigma 16mm 1.4 that you're looking at, that 30mm is one of my most highly recommended lenses since this channel has begun. Absolutely fantastic lens. Do yourself a favor, if you like that focal length, pick up that 30mm 1.4 from Sigma. Next up, we have a focal length that's important to a lot of people, myself included, and that is the portrait focal length of 56mm. And right here, you have the Viltrox 56mm 1.4. So this is, full frame equivalent around that 85mm field of view, which is traditionally something people use for portraits, those head and shoulder shots. And this thing will get you such great head and shoulder shots. The focus is fantastic, and that 1.4 gets you that creamy, blurry background. Now, the Sigma 56 1.4 is a little bit better than this lens. It does compete quite well with that Sigma 56. But if you have the budget, the Sigma 56 is the best of the best. So if you're looking for something a little bit cheaper than that lens, then definitely pick up this Viltrox. This is one of those wow lenses. You know what I mean? Like someone says, hey, can you take a picture of me in front of this pile of garbage? And you're like, well, first of all, move, get a better background. And then you take that photo and it's got that blurry background, that 3D pop. And then everybody's like, oh, excuse me, you're like a real photographer, because they're used to looking at their phone pictures. You know, sometimes they get the fake background blur, but it's not the same thing. And you're like, yes, I am. I'm a professional. Now give me $100 for that photo right now. Then it'd be more than a third of the way to buying this lens. Now this next one, you may be surprised, comes from Sony themselves. You can get a 55 to 210mm telephoto lens from Sony for under $300. The quality of this lens is great. Your pictures will come out fantastic, and you have such a long focal range. On the long end, that is 315mm full frame equivalent. So to have that versatility in your camera bag for less than $300, that is just a fantastic deal. You're into sports, you're into wildlife photography, then that 55 to 210 is one of the best bargains that you can get. So as you can see, it is a fantastic time to be a Sony APS-C shooter. You can buy very expensive, fancy lenses that are pretty much perfect. Then you can also buy really great to excellent lenses on a budget. I just love the versatility of the Sony APS-C system right now. And once again, these are just the lenses that I use and I recommend. So if you have other recommendations, please write them down below, and then we can all have a nice little discussion about it. Thanks for watching this. We'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye. Gonna go get some Neocitrin now.